They stabbed the mafia boss in the dark, not realizing he controls who sees the light. I ruled the city from the shadows, and everyone knew my name. Luca Vallon was spoken in whispers, never aloud. I built my empire slowly, brick by brick, trust by trust. Blood made me strong, but loyalty kept me alive. The family ate at my table, drank my wine, laughed at my jokes. My brother handled money. My cousin ran the streets. My uncle stood beside me during wars. I trusted them with everything. I thought blood meant honor. I was wrong. The night it began, rain covered the city. I walked alone to the old church, a place we used for quiet meetings. I felt eyes on me, but fear never lived in my chest. I opened the door and saw my family waiting. Their faces were tight, cold, different. Before I could speak, hands grabbed me. A blade kissed my side. Pain burned, but the betrayal cut deeper. My brother would not meet my eyes. They left me bleeding on holy stone, certain I was dead. As darkness closed in, I made a promise. If I lived, they would learn who controls the light. The rain washed my blood into the street, hiding their crime. Church bells rang once, slow and heavy. I stayed still, holding my breath, listening to their footsteps fade. In that silence, hate was born, clear, sharp, and patient. It waited with me in the dark, growing stronger with every heartbeat, every drop of pain, every second they believed I was gone, forever watching. I woke before dawn, cold and shaking. My body screamed, but my mind stayed calm. I pressed my hand to my side and felt warm blood. Death had missed me by inches. I laughed once, quiet and bitter. The church had saved me, but faith had nothing to do with it. I crawled through a side door and into the alley. Each step felt like fire, yet I kept moving. A beggar saw me and froze. He knew my face. Fear filled his eyes. I told him nothing, only dropped my ring into his hand. He nodded and ran. Loyalty can be bought when it is simple. By sunrise, I reached a safe house no one knew. I stitched my wound alone, slow and careful. Pain teaches patience. I studied the ceiling and planned. Rage is loud. Revenge is silent. They would think I was dead. They would mourn in public and smile in private. My brother would sit in my chair. My cousin would take my routes. My uncle would bless it all. I stayed hidden for weeks. I listened through old channels. I learned who took my power and how they divided it. They fought already. Greed speaks faster than truth. One night, I stood before a mirror and barely knew myself. Thinner, harder, still alive. I cut my hair short and changed my name. Luca Vallon was dead. The man who lived now was something else. From the shadows, I began to move pieces. Small losses hit them first. Lost money. Missed shipments. Quiet fear. They blamed outsiders, never family. I smiled in the dark, knowing the game had started, and I was already winning. Slowly, carefully, without mercy, without light, without forgiveness waiting for them. I rebuilt my power using silence. No guns. No threats. Only whispers placed where they hurt most. I paid drivers to vanish. I tipped police toward false doors. I let rivals smell weakness where none existed. My brother called meetings filled with anger. He demanded answers. None came. Men stopped trusting him. They remembered who had ruled before. Fear is loyal to memory. I watched from afar, learning new faces. Some were brave. Some were fools. I marked both. I sent gifts to my cousin through secret hands. Bad deals. Easy money. He took them all. Greed blindfolds faster than hate. My uncle preached unity while stealing quietly. I recorded his words. Truth is a blade when sharpened. I stored everything, waiting. At night, I walked the city dressed as no one. I listened in bars. I heard my name spoken like a ghost. Some said I survived. Others said I burned in hell. I let both stories live. Fear grows best when fed choices. One evening, I saved a young dealer from an ambush. He never saw my face, only my shadow. He owed me his life. I told him nothing, only gave orders later. He obeyed. Loyalty still existed. It had just changed homes. Step by step, I pulled strings. Money moved. Routes broke. Trust cracked. My family grew nervous. They searched for enemies outside, never inside themselves. I returned to the church once, standing where I fell. The stone was clean now. The blood was gone. But I remembered every second. I promised the walls they would see me again. The city shifted slowly, like a sleeping beast waking. They felt it but could not name it. I was still dead to them, and that was my greatest weapon. In death, I had learned how to rule again without mercy, without mistakes, without leaving fingerprints behind. The first strike had to be personal. Not loud, not final. A warning shaped like loss. My cousin was the weakest link. He loved money and attention. I fed him both. I sent him a deal through trusted mouths. Easy profit, no risk. He walked into it smiling. The shipment never arrived. Neither did the money. Instead, police raided his main house. No charges stuck, but his secret spilled. His men fled. He begged my brother for help. My brother shouted. Trust broke further. I listened through wires and smiled. That night, I arranged a meeting in a quiet club. My cousin came alone, shaking. He thought he was meeting a fixer. He met me instead. I stayed in shadow. He knew my voice. His knees failed him. I told him he was alive because I allowed it. I told him to run. Leave the city. Leave the family. Never speak my name. He cried. Tears are useless currency. I turned away. By morning, he was gone. My brother panicked. My uncle blamed rivals. They closed ranks tighter, cutting themselves with their own fear. The city noticed. Old allies called me through new channels. I answered none. Power tastes sweeter when denied. I watched my brother sit in my chair, sweating. He ordered executions that fixed nothing. Blood answered blood, and the streets grew louder. I stayed silent. That night, I burned my old ring. Luca Vallon no longer needed symbols. I had become something quieter, heavier. One light was out. Many remained. I would not rush. Revenge is not fire. It is shadow swallowing candle by candle. They would kneel before they knew who stood above them, holding the switch they could never reach again. Fear changes men. My brother aged in months. His voice lost strength. His eyes searched every corner. He trusted no one. A king without trust rules nothing. I turned his closest men against him. Not with lies, but truth. I showed them records, quiet thefts, broken promises. Loyalty fled like smoke. They began calling me again, begging for guidance from a ghost. I gave none. I let doubt rot them slowly. My uncle tried to take control. He preached peace while planning war. I leaked his plans to 3 sides at once. Each believed he betrayed them. None were wrong. A meeting was called at the docks. I watched from afar as shouting turned to gunfire. Sirens followed. Another stain on the family name. Another crack in the crown. I sent my brother a message that night. One sentence. No signature. Just truth. You stabbed the wrong man. He shut down operations for days. Money stopped flowing. Men deserted. The city leaned toward chaos. I steadied it quietly, through others, unseen. Even broken, I ruled better than he ever could. I returned to my safe house and poured a drink. I did not toast. This was not victory yet. It was only the opening act. In the mirror, I saw a stranger shaped by patience. The wound on my side had healed into a scar. I touched it once, then let it go. Pain is a teacher you do not need twice. Outside, the city waited. My family waited. They still believed the darkness belonged to them. Soon, I would show them the truth. I decide who sees the light, when it burns, and when it dies forever. My brother made his first real mistake, when he said my name. Not in fear, but in anger. He shouted it during a meeting, slamming the table like a child. The room went quiet. Men exchanged looks. Dead names should stay dead. I heard about it within hours. Words travel fast when fear carries them. I decided it was time to let the city believe again. That night, a mid-level captain vanished. No body, no noise, just absence. By morning, a symbol appeared on a wall near my old headquarters. A simple mark from the past. One only the family knew. Panic spread. My uncle ordered prayers. My brother ordered searches. Both were useless. You cannot hunt a shadow using light. I met with an old ally in a crowded market. He did not recognize me at first. Then he did. His hands shook. I told him to stay calm. I was not there to punish. I was there to listen. He spoke of weakness, of fear, of men waiting for direction. I gave him none, only a question. Who do you trust? His silence was enough. That night, I sent another message. This time to my uncle. It contained only a date. The night they left me to die. He canceled all travel after that. A guilty man fears memory more than death. The city buzzed with rumors. Some said Luca Vallon walked again. Others said it was a lie meant to scare fools. I let both stories breathe. In my world, belief is power. And belief was shifting back to me, quietly, steadily, without mercy for those who forgot who built everything they stood on. My uncle believed prayer could erase blood. He lit candles and spoke softly, pretending the past could not hear him. But guilt has ears. It listens patiently. I arranged a meeting under peace terms. Neutral ground. No weapons. Just words. He agreed too fast. Fear makes men careless. We sat across from each other in a quiet room. He smiled like family. I did not smile at all. When I stepped into the light, his face collapsed. He whispered my name like a curse. I told him to sit. He obeyed. He spoke first. Apologies. Excuses. Blame placed everywhere, but on himself. I let him talk. Words reveal more than silence when given time. I slid a folder across the table. Inside were recordings, ledgers, proof. Every lie he told died as he turned each page. His hands trembled. His voice broke. I told him he could live, but he would lose everything. His money, his influence, his protection. He would leave the city and never return. He asked for mercy. Mercy is a luxury for the innocent. I stood and walked away. 2 days later, his accounts were empty. His allies vanished. His name meant nothing. He boarded a plane with no destination that mattered. My brother felt the loss immediately. He grew desperate. Desperation shortens thought. The city noticed a shift. Old respect returned in quiet gestures. Doors opened. Messages came without requests. I did not celebrate. I prepared. The closer you get to the crown, the sharper the blades become. My brother was next, and he would not beg. He would fight. And when he did, the city would finally see who controlled the light. My brother tightened his grip as his world shrank. He trusted cameras more than men. He slept in new rooms every night. Power without peace eats itself alive. I let him feel strong again. For 1 week, nothing went wrong. Money flowed. Deals closed. His chest lifted. Hope is easy to poison. Then I cut the lights. A warehouse burned. Not loudly. Clean. No deaths. Just loss. A second shipment disappeared. Drivers quit. Phones went silent. He called an emergency meeting. Half the chairs were empty. The ones who came avoided his eyes. He threatened them. Threats reveal weakness faster than silence. I stood across the street, watching through glass. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not weaker. Smaller. Power had never fit him well. That night, I sent him a final invitation. Same church. Same hour. No guards. He laughed when he read it. Laughter is fear dressed in pride. He came anyway. I waited in the dark, just as he had left me. When he spoke, his voice shook. He demanded answers. I stepped forward. He tried to raise his gun. It jammed. I had planned that months ago. I told him I loved him once. Then I told him love does not survive betrayal. I did not kill him. Death would be too simple. I took his power instead. His men walked away. His money vanished. His name lost meaning. When he left the church, alive but empty, the city felt it. A king without shadows is just a man waiting to fall. And he would fall soon. The city does not care about blood. It cares about order. When order returns, loyalty follows. I let word spread that Luca Vallon was not seeking chaos. I wanted balance. Old leaders reached out. New ones listened. The streets calmed. Business returned. My brother hid. My uncle stayed gone. My cousin never came back. The family that betrayed me no longer existed. A council formed without my command. That alone proved my power. They wanted me, not the throne I once held. I attended in silence, letting them speak first. They offered control. I declined. Control attracts knives. Influence attracts obedience. I chose influence. I placed others in visible roles. I stayed unseen. My name became rumor again, but stronger this time. A rule, not a man. One night, my brother tried to run. He was caught by men who once served him. They brought him to me without orders. Fear knows where authority lives. He begged then, promised loyalty, blood, anything. I told him the truth. He was free to leave the city. But if he ever returned, the light would not find him again. He left at dawn, broken and alone. I watched the city wake. Cars moved. Shops opened. Life continued. That is real power, not fear. Stability. I walked away from the window knowing I had won. Not because my enemies fell, but because the world chose me without seeing my face. The dark obeyed, and the light followed my command. Months passed. The city healed. Violence dropped. Money moved cleanly. People slept easier without knowing why. I lived simply. No throne. No crown. Just control. When leaders met, they waited for signs. A nod. A pause. Silence for me carried more weight than orders. I returned to the church one last time. Sunlight filled the space where blood once soaked stone. I stood there calm. Complete. I did not feel joy. Revenge is not joy. It is closure. The family name faded into history. Stories changed. Truth blurred. That was fine. Legends last longer when details die. I burned the last file. Erased the last recording. The past no longer served me. As I left, a boy swept the floor. He looked up and nodded, respectful without knowing why. That was enough. Outside, the city breathed under my watch. I did not rule from shadows anymore. I ruled from absence. Those who sought power learned patience. Those who sought betrayal learned fear. I walked into the crowd, just another man. No one stopped me. No one needed to. Somewhere far away, my brother lived with memory. My uncle lived with shame. My cousin lived with regret. I lived with control. They stabbed the mafia boss in the dark, believing death would end him. They were wrong. I learned that night what true power is. It is not killing. It is deciding who survives. And I will always control who sees the light, when it shines, and when it disappears forever. Power settled into the city like quiet rain. No one announced it. Everyone felt it. Meetings ended faster. Guns stayed hidden. Silence became the new law. I watched from distance as leaders adjusted. They spoke carefully. They moved slower. They asked before acting. Fear had matured into respect. A new problem rose from the south. Young men chasing fast power. They did not know history. They did not know me. I sent no warnings. I let them act. They stole from the wrong route. Within hours, their money vanished. Their buyers disappeared. Their names were whispered with laughter. They asked who did it. No answer came. One leader approached me through 3 layers of trust. He asked if the city was safe. I asked him if he wanted it to be. He nodded. That was enough. I gave no orders. I only allowed correction. By the next week, the young men had left town. No blood. No noise. Just absence. That night, I sat alone, listening to the city breathe. Control without cruelty lasts longer. I thought of the night I bled on stone, of how silence saved me. Now silence served me. The city did not see me. It did not need to. Power works best when unseen. Some men rule with fear. Some rule with love. I ruled with certainty. And certainty spread like shadow at dusk, steady and unavoidable, covering everything without force, without warning, without mercy for those who still believed chaos could survive in a city that had chosen order over noise. News reached me through careful channels. My brother was sick. Not dying. Just weak. Fear eats the body when it has nowhere else to go. I felt nothing. Blood does not demand forgiveness. It only remembers. A message arrived from him. Short. Apologetic. Too late. He asked to meet. I declined without response. Some doors closed forever. The city continued forward. New alliances formed. Old grudges softened. Violence dropped further. I allowed it. Peace is expensive, but chaos costs more. One night, I walked past my old house. Lights were off. Windows boarded. The place felt smaller than memory. I did not stop. A young leader asked me how I built loyalty. I told him loyalty grows where fear is fair. He wrote that down. He did not understand it yet. He would. I ended 3 rivalries with 1 meeting. No shouting. No threats. Just truth placed on the table. Men left lighter than they arrived. That is power. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered who I would have been without betrayal. The thought passed quickly. Pain does not weaken. It refines. The family name was no longer spoken. The city moved on. So did I. Blood ties fade when trust breaks. What remains is choice. I chose control. I chose distance. I chose a world that did not need my face to obey my will. And in that choice, I found something stronger than revenge. I found permanence. Peace attracts watchers. Outsiders noticed the calm and wanted pieces of it. A foreign group tested the border, slow and polite. I invited their leader to dinner. Neutral ground. Simple food. No guards visible. He arrived confident. He left quieter. I did not threaten him. I showed him numbers. Routes. Time. I showed him how fast peace could turn expensive. He understood. Smart men always do. He asked who I was. I told him I was the reason things worked. That was enough. After he left, I adjusted the balance. New rules. Clear lines. Everyone benefited. No one argued. The city slept easier. That is the true cost of peace. Constant attention. I trained others to listen the way I listened. To act without emotion. To wait. Waiting wins more wars than bullets. One night, a man tried to betray a deal. He was caught by his own partner before I knew. Order protects itself when built correctly. I smiled once. I kept my life small. No excess. No noise. Power does not need decoration. Sometimes I wondered if anyone would remember my face. The answer did not matter. Legends do not need witnesses. The city moved like a machine now. Smooth. Quiet. Profitable. Betrayal had taught me the greatest lesson. Control does not come from blood or fear. It comes from understanding how people move when they think no one is watching. And I was always watching, always listening, always deciding where the light would fall next. Years passed. The city changed, but the rules held. New names rose. Old ones faded. My presence stayed steady, unseen. One evening, I received word that my brother had died. Alone. Quiet. No family. No power. Just memory. I sat with the news and felt nothing again. Then something unexpected. Relief. The past had finally closed its last door. I allowed myself one night of reflection. Not regret. Understanding. Betrayal had shaped me, but it did not own me. I had chosen what came after. The council asked if I wanted recognition. A name. A title. I refused. Names attract enemies. Silence attracts respect. I began preparing others to lead without me. Slowly. Carefully. A true ruler plans his absence. I moved money into schools. Hospitals. Places no one questioned. Stability grows where hope lives. The city softened without losing strength. One morning, I walked through the church again. Light filled it fully now. No shadows left to hide secrets. I sat where I once fell and felt peace settle. I had won long ago. I was just now letting go. The ghost did not need to haunt forever. I stood and left the city that day, trusting what I built. Some power stays because it must. Some leaves because it can. I chose to leave. And in that choice, I proved the greatest truth. Control is knowing when to hold the light, and when to walk away from it without fear. I watched the city one last time from a distance. It moved without me. That was success. Leaders acted with care. Streets stayed calm. Business flowed clean. My work lived on without my shadow. I traveled quietly. No escorts. No titles. Just a man with memory and discipline. Sometimes, I heard my name spoken in other places. Stories changed with distance. I let them. Truth does not need protection. I taught young men patience. I taught them silence. I never taught them revenge. That lesson costs too much. At night, I slept without fear. No footsteps. No whispers. Peace earned stays. I thought once more of my family. Of blood spilled and bonds broken. The weight had lifted. Closure does not come from punishment. It comes from control. I wrote no memoir. I left no record. The city did not need one. Years later, I returned once unseen. The church still stood. The stones still clean. Life moved forward. I smiled and walked away. They stabbed the mafia boss in the dark, believing betrayal would erase him. Instead, it revealed him. I learned who I was when everything was taken. I learned what mattered when blood failed. The light still shined. Not because I held it, but because I built something that did not need me to survive. That is the final truth of power. Not domination. Not fear. Legacy. And somewhere, in the quiet order of a city that never speaks my name, my decision still decides who sees the light. I thought the past was finished. I was wrong. A rumor reached me from far away. Someone was using my old name, not honoring it, selling it, wearing it like stolen clothes. The man claimed he was my heir, that I had blessed him before disappearing. Lies age fast, but they still poison. I returned quietly, not to rule, to correct. The city had changed, but it remembered truth. It only needed proof. I watched the liar gather followers, feeding them stories of violence and glory. He promised fear. That was his mistake. I met the council without revealing myself. I asked one question. Is the city still at peace? They answered yes. Then I asked another. Do you want it to stay that way? They nodded. I gave them everything. Records, dates, witnesses. The truth sharpened and placed carefully in their hands. The liar fell in one night. Arrested. Exposed. Forgotten. His followers scattered before sunrise. I never showed my face. I never spoke my name. As I walked away, I understood something final. Power never leaves footprints when used correctly. I had not returned for revenge. I returned for balance. The city remained steady. The past had tried to breathe again. I closed its mouth gently. Permanently. Some endings require noise. This one required silence. And silence, once again, obeyed me without question, without resistance, without even knowing who had spoken the final word. One debt remained. Not of blood. Of choice. The man who saved me the night I crawled from the church had vanished long ago. I found him living small, forgotten, worn by time. I approached him as a stranger. He did not recognize me. That was good. We talked. Simple things. Weather. Work. Life. Then I placed my ring on the table. His eyes widened. Memory returned like thunder. He tried to refuse what I offered. Money. Safety. Comfort. I stopped him. I told him the truth. He had already been paid. He reminded me what loyalty looked like when nothing was promised. I left him with peace instead. Protection he would never see. Some debts cannot be repaid directly. They must be honored quietly. As I walked away, I felt lighter. Revenge closes wounds. Gratitude seals them. That night, I slept without dreams. In the morning, the city moved on, unaware of the final string being tied. I understood then that my story was complete, not because enemies were gone, but because nothing pulled me backward anymore. The city no longer needed correction. It needed distance. I left again, this time for good. The light was steady now. It did not flicker. It did not call me. I had built something that survived truth, lies, greed, and blood. And for the first time since betrayal shaped my spine, I was not a ghost, a ruler, or a shadow. I was free, and freedom was the only revenge that never fades. Years passed. The city grew larger, calmer, safer. People told stories about the old days. They argued about who saved them. No one ever said my name. That was perfect. Children grew up without fear of gunfire. Shops stayed open late. Trust became normal. No one noticed when it happened. That is how real change works. I watched from afar sometimes. Not to interfere. To confirm. The council aged. New leaders rose. The rules stayed. Balance held. No statues were built. No holidays declared. Power without worship lasts longer. Once, a young man asked an elder who truly ruled the city. The elder answered, someone who knew when to disappear. I smiled when I heard that. I lived quietly. I worked. I learned. I loved in small ways. No secrets. No fear. The scar on my side faded but never vanished. I kept it as proof. Betrayal does not end you. It introduces you to yourself. The city never knew how close it came to chaos. How one knife almost broke everything. They never knew a man bled on stone and chose patience over fire. They never knew the light they lived under was designed by someone who understood darkness better than anyone else alive. And they never needed to know. That is the final gift of control. The world improves, and no one asks how. The best revenge is not being remembered as a victim or a villain, but as the reason everything works, without explanation. Time erases faces, but not outcomes. The city thrived long after I stopped watching. That was my proof. I grew older, calmer, softer in places I never allowed before. Strength does not leave. It changes shape. Sometimes, I spoke to young men about choice. Not power. Choice lasts longer. I never told my story. Stories invite misunderstanding. Results speak clearly. When my body weakened, my mind remained sharp. I prepared for the final silence. I wrote one letter. No names. No instructions. Only truth. It explained nothing and everything. I left it where it would never be found. Some truths exist only to be carried, not discovered. On my last walk, I passed a church. Not the old one. A new one. Light filled it fully. No shadows at all. I sat briefly and breathed. Betrayal had not won. It had shaped something stronger. I had ruled without cruelty, punished without blood, and left without collapse. That is not legend. That is discipline. When the end came, it was quiet. No fear. No regret. The city continued. Somewhere, leaders made careful choices, without knowing why. Somewhere, order held. And somewhere in the unseen foundation of a world that never spoke my name, my decision still lived. That is the truth betrayal never understands. You can stab a man in the dark, but if he survives, he decides what survives with him. The story ends where it began. In darkness. With choice. They stabbed me, a mafia boss believing death would erase me. They believed power lived in blood and noise. They were wrong. Power lives in patience, in silence, in knowing when to act and when to vanish. I was betrayed by blood and reborn by discipline. I did not destroy the city. I corrected it. My family lost everything because they chose fear over loyalty. The city gained everything because I chose restraint over rage. No one remembers my face. That is my victory. No one speaks my name. That is my legacy. The light still shines, steady and calm, because someone once stood in the dark and refused to let chaos win. Revenge was never about pain. It was about balance. I did not rule forever. I ruled correctly. And when the world tried to crown lies, I removed them without being seen. That is how real power works. It does not scream. It does not beg. It does not explain. It decides. So, if you live in a city that sleeps peacefully without knowing why, remember this. Someone like me chose control instead of anger. Someone like me chose patience instead of fire. They stabbed me the mafia boss in the dark. But I decided who sees the light. And long after knives rust and names fade, that decision still stands, unchallenged, unmoving, absolute.